The federal courtroom buzzed with anticipation as the high-profile trial entered its most dramatic phase. What began as a standard legal proceeding had evolved into something far more explosive, with each day bringing new revelations that sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. As reported by courthouse observers, the atmosphere was already charged when Kanye West made his entrance. Dressed entirely in black, wearing dark sunglasses despite being indoors, the rap mogul walked with purpose toward the stand. His hands trembled slightly, but his voice remained steady as he prepared to deliver testimony that would forever change the narrative surrounding some of music's biggest names. "I'm not here to discuss melodies or beats," Kanye began, his words cutting through the silence like a blade. "I'm here to discuss something far more sinister. I'm here to talk about deliberate elimination." The courtroom erupted in gasps. The judge's gavel struck repeatedly, demanding order, but the tension in the room was palpable. This wasn't going to be ordinary testimony about business disputes or contract violations. This was something entirely different. Kanye proceeded to explain that his presence wasn't coincidental. He had been called to speak not just about Sean Diddy Combs' alleged misconduct, but about connections to what he described as the systematic destruction of Michael Jackson himself. The testimony took a darker turn as Kanye began connecting dots that had never been publicly linked before. He pointed to a security professional named Fahim Muhammad, describing him as a central figure in a web of suspicious circumstances. According to Kanye, this same individual, who currently served as Diddy's head of security, had also been responsible for Michael Jackson's protection during his final months in 2009. Kanye posed a troubling question to the jury: why would the world's most famous entertainer entrust his safety to someone barely out of college with minimal high-level security experience? At the time of his hiring, Kanye explained, Fahim was fresh out of Sacramento State University. Yet within months, he was placed in charge of protecting the most targeted celebrity on the planet. Even more concerning is that Michael Jackson didn't personally select him. He was introduced through industry connections that trace directly back to Sean Combs. Kanye suggested that Fahim's role wasn't primarily protective, but rather supervisory. He allegedly had access to Jackson's schedule, medications, staff, and most dangerously, his deepest fears and concerns. The testimony grew more intriguing as Kanye revealed another layer of complexity. He mentioned that Fahim had been invited as a guest speaker at the prestigious Wharton School, which Kanye claimed was unusual for someone in his position. "What kind of security professional lectures at Wharton?" Kanye asked the jury pointedly. "Not someone whose primary job is physical protection, someone whose mission extends far beyond that?" Kanye then shifted to a topic he claimed to know intimately: the concept of handlers in the entertainment industry. These, he explained, were shadowy figures placed in celebrities' lives to control, manipulate, and ultimately silence them when necessary. He spoke from personal experience, describing his own alleged handler, a former trainer named Harley Pasternak, who had reportedly threatened to have him institutionalized if he didn't comply with certain demands. Kanye looked directly at the jury and said, "This man threatened to lock me away in a psychiatric facility for refusing to behave. What do you think happens to people who don't fall in line?" According to Kanye's testimony, Harley had sent him threatening text messages, including one that read, "I can have you institutionalized again where they medicate the crap out of you, and you go back to Zombieland forever." The courtroom gasped at this revelation, with several jurors visibly disturbed by the implications. Kanye explained that these handlers weren't just trainers or security personnel. They were part of a larger network designed to keep celebrities compliant. They monitor your movements, your conversations, your relationships. They report back to industry executives who decide whether you're being good or if you need to be brought back in line. He drew a direct parallel between his situation and what he claimed happened to Michael Jackson. According to his testimony, Jackson was assigned his own version of a handler, except this one didn't just threaten medication, but had access to Jackson's home, medicine cabinet, and ultimately his fate. "The difference between my handler and Michael's," Kanye said ominously, "is that mine just threatened to drug me. Michael's handler had the keys to everything: his house, his schedule, his medication, his life." Kanye outlined what he called the pattern in meticulous detail. First, an artist gains significant power and influence. often through owning their masters or challenging industry norms. Second, they begin challenging industry executives or speaking out against injustices they've witnessed. Third, they refuse to fall in line with industry expectations or demands. Finally, suddenly, they become sick, sedated, and in some cases, they die, with their handler security person in charge throughout the process. Michael gained power by owning half of Sony's catalog, Kanye testified. He challenged Tommy Mottola, publicly calling him a devil. He protested outside Sony's offices with Al Sharpton. He spoke about the racism in the music industry. Then suddenly he's sick, sedated, and dead, with Fahim Muhammad in charge of his security. Kanye then drew parallels to his own experiences with chilling precision. I rose to fame, challenged Adidas when they stole my designs, called out the Grammys for their bias, exposed Balenciaga's disturbing campaigns, even questioned Jay-Z's loyalty. I refuse to fall in line with their narrative. Suddenly, I'm being told to go back to zombie land, being forced into hospitals against my will, losing billion-dollar deals, becoming what they wanted, a modern-day Michael, silenced and discredited. The rapper's voice grew more intense as he described the psychological warfare involved. They don't just threaten you once, it's constant. Phone calls at 3 a.m., people following your family, business deals mysteriously falling through, friends suddenly becoming distant. They break you down mentally before they break you down physically. Perhaps the most dramatic moment of the testimony came when Kanye claimed to have knowledge of Michael Jackson's final phone call, a voicemail that he said was shared with him by someone within the Jackson family, but never released to the U.S. public. According to Kanye, this message revealed Jackson's state of mind in his final days. The voice, he claimed, was filled with anxiety and fear. I don't feel safe. He's here. I know he is. They're trying to take everything from me. But it was the alleged final words of that voicemail that sent shockwaves through the courtroom. Tell them it's Puffy, he knows he's here. Please protect the children. The gallery fell silent. Several jurors appeared visibly shaken. Diddy, who had maintained composure throughout most of the trial, was seen gripping the edge of the defense table while his attorneys whispered urgently in his ear. Kanye claimed this call had been made to someone close to Jackson, who initially dismissed the warning signs. He painted a picture of Jackson's final days as increasingly isolated, separated from his longtime team, and surrounded by what he called industry plants with security badges. Michael's security camera system reportedly malfunctioned on the night of his death, Kanye testified. The same house that was supposed to be locked down with surveillance failed. Footage was wiped, cameras were down. Just like in Diddy's case, footage disappeared. Kanye then dropped a theory that rocked the room. He suggested that Michael Jackson wasn't supposed to die from propofol, that he was being prepared for something else, and someone panicked and pulled the plug too soon. He described the financial stakes involved in devastating detail. Michael was worth billions in publishing rights. His comeback tour was expected to break global records, and his catalog was, as Kanye put it, worth killing for. Let's talk numbers, Kanye said, his voice becoming more calculated. Michael owned 50% of Sony ATV Publishing, which included the Beatles catalog. That stake was worth over $500 million in 2009. His This Is It tour was projected to generate over $400 million in revenue. But here's the thing. Michael was planning to buy back his masters. He was going to own everything. Kanye painted a picture of an industry conspiracy. Michael had meetings scheduled with financial advisors about purchasing the remaining 50% of Sony ATV. He was planning to leave Sony altogether and start his own label. He was going to expose the contracts, the exploitation, the way they steal from Black artists. They couldn't let that happen. The testimony grew more specific as Kanye detailed alleged conversations. Michael told people close to him that he was being pressured to sell his catalog. When he refused, the pressure intensified. Suddenly, his health declined, his finances were questioned, and he was painted as desperate for money, which wasn't true. He was cash poor but asset rich, exactly where they wanted him. Michael's death, Kanye said with conviction, was the cleanest business move Sony ever made. Within hours of his death, his music sales skyrocketed. The This Is It movie made over $260 million. His estate has generated over $2 billion since his death. Who benefited? Not his children, not his family. The same industry that controlled him in life now controls his legacy in death. Kanye then revealed what he claimed were Michael's own words from a conversation they had. Michael told me, "They don't want us to own anything, yeah. They want us to rent our own creativity from them." He knew what they were planning. He told me he was documenting everything, keeping records, preparing to expose the whole system. The testimony opened floodgates about what Kanye described as a broader pattern that had haunted the music industry for decades. He recited names like a eulogy, but this time with specific details about each case. Whitney Houston, DMX, Prince, Amy Winehouse, Lisa Left Eye Lopes, Tupac Shakur, the Notorious B.I.G., and even Mac Miller. Each one tried to break free. Each one tried to speak truth, and each one is gone, he said solemnly. But it's not just the deaths. It's the circumstances, the timing, the people around them in their final days. Kanye mentioned how Prince had openly battled Warner Brothers for the rights to his music and warned others about contracts and labels controlling their souls. Prince wrote "slave" on his face, changed his name to a symbol to escape his contract. He was found dead in an elevator at Paisley Park, alone, after warning friends that someone was trying to silence him. The same elevator where he had been trapped months earlier for hours, that wasn't an accident, that was a message. He spoke of Whitney Houston with even more detail. Whitney told people she knew too much about the industry's dark side. She was at Clive Davis's pre-Grammy party the night she died, the same Clive Davis who discovered her, controlled her career, and allegedly introduced her to the people who supplied her drugs. She was found in a bathtub, just like several other artists who got too close to the truth. Kanye's voice grew somber as he discussed Left Eye. Lisa Lopes was in Honduras, away from the industry, getting clean, finding herself spiritually. She made a video days before her death saying she was being followed, that spirits were warning her. She said someone wanted her dead. Her car went off a road with no guardrails, in broad daylight, on a straight stretch of road she had driven dozens of times before. According to Kanye, the Diddy brand was not just about music, it was about power, leverage, and control, serving as a front for something far more sinister. He pointed to various lawsuits that alleged Diddy orchestrated parties involving questionable activities but claimed this was just the surface. The real operation, Kanye claimed, was about influence, about control, and about eliminating threats. Diddy maintained ties with executives, politicians, and former intelligence agents. This is why people disappear. This is why lawsuits vanish. You can't fight this with a lawyer, you fight it with a spotlight. Kanye detailed what he called Diddy's infrastructure of control, describing a network that extended far beyond the music industry. Sean Combs doesn't just run Bad Boy Records, he runs an intelligence operation. He has files on everyone, recordings of private conversations, photographs from private parties, financial records of business deals. He knows where the bodies are buried because he helped bury them. He cited federal raids on Diddy's homes and claimed that not all of the footage seized was revealed to the public. "I've seen parts of it," Kanye said. Tunnels connecting properties, rooms designed for surveillance, servers containing terabytes of compromising material. Some of the names in those files are still in the industry, some of them run companies, some of them sit in boardrooms making decisions about which artists get deals and which ones get destroyed. Kanye exposed what he called the pyramid, a network of assistants, stylists, producers, trainers, bodyguards, and lawyers who all served a central purpose: silence and surveillance. It's not just about music, he explained, it's about creating a culture of fear. Everyone knows what happens if you talk, so nobody talks. He detailed how this system worked. First, they identify artists with potential, not just musical talent, but influence, authenticity, the ability to move culture. Then they surround that artist with their people. The manager, the security, the trainer, the chef, the driver, everyone reports back. They monitor everything. Who you're dating, what you're saying in private, what your political views are, whether you're becoming difficult. You're not allowed to leave, you're not allowed to talk, and if you do, you'll never work again. Or worse, he testified. They control the narrative. If you speak out, suddenly you're crazy, unstable, having a breakdown. The same media that built you up tears you down, and everyone just accepts it because celebrities are unstable anyway. Kanye then revealed specific examples of this control. When I spoke out about slavery being a choice, they painted me as mentally ill. When I supported Trump, they said I was having a manic episode. When I exposed the contracts and called out the Jewish executives who control the industry, they destroyed my billion-dollar deals overnight. This isn't coincidence. This is the machine working. He continued with chilling detail. They have a playbook. First, they isolate you from your real friends and family. Then they surround you with their people who slowly change your behavior, your habits, your worldview. If you resist, they increase the pressure. Financial problems, legal issues, health scares. If you still don't comply, they escalate to the final solution. Kanye's testimony grew more personal as he described his own experiences. After my mother died, I was vulnerable. They swooped in with handlers, with help, with people who claimed to care about my mental health. But they weren't there to heal me. They were there to control me. Every breakdown was induced. Every hospitalization was orchestrated. Every medication was designed to keep me compliant. As Kanye spoke these words in open court, the room sat in stunned silence. His accusations weren't vague. They were direct, specific, and damning. Diddy sat motionless at the defense table, but those watching closely noticed the way his jaw clenched, his fingers twitched, and how he leaned in to whisper furiously to his legal team. At one point, Kanye locked eyes with Diddy and said slowly, "You know what you did to him. You watched the king fall." The room exploded with murmurs. The judge struck the gavel for order. Reporters whispered into their phones, documenting every detail as if history was unfolding live. According to multiple court sketch artists and legal observers, Diddy visibly shook his head at Kanye's statements but didn't deny them. He didn't scream, didn't object. He looked cornered. Kanye continued, referencing past meetings with Michael Jackson. He told me he was scared. He told me people were following him, that he felt like someone inside his own home was planning against him. He never said Diddy's name back then, but he described someone who matched Fahim Muhammad, young, calm, always watching, someone Michael never hired himself. He didn't trust him. Kanye's testimony didn't just detonate inside the courtroom. The moment it was live-streamed and tweeted out, a media storm unlike anything in recent memory erupted. Every outlet from CNN to TMZ ran headlines. Kanye West says Diddy had Michael Jackson killed, and courtroom chaos as Kanye accuses Diddy of orchestrating MJ's death. But what made the world stop was the response from the Jackson family. Jermaine Jackson posted emotionally on Instagram. Kanye said what we couldn't say for 15 years. My brother was murdered and the industry knows it. LaToya Jackson issued a statement through her attorney. I've said it before. Michael didn't die from an overdose. He died because someone wanted him silenced. We're now ready to speak under oath. Leaked internal emails, reportedly obtained by an anonymous whistleblower from AEG, suggested that executives were aware Michael was physically unfit for the tour, but proceeded anyway. One chilling email read, "He doesn't need to be well. He just needs to make it through opening night." Kanye's testimony had opened a vault. Former Jackson staff members began contacting the court, offering to testify. One claimed they saw unfamiliar security personnel inside Michael's home the night before he died. Another said Michael had grown so paranoid he would sleep with music blasting to drown out voices he thought were being piped through the walls. The floodgates had opened, and information began pouring in from unexpected sources. A former Sony executive, speaking anonymously, told reporters that there had been unusual activity around Michael's contracts in the weeks before his death. People were asking questions about his catalog that they had no business asking, the executive said. Dr. Conrad Murray's former attorney reached out to prosecutors, claiming to have evidence that his client had been set up and that there were other people involved in Michael's death who were never investigated. Conrad was the fall guy, the attorney stated. He was guilty of negligence, but he wasn't guilty of murder. Someone else wanted Michael dead, and they used Conrad to do it. Legal experts began revisiting the role of Fahim Muhammad with intense scrutiny, questioning why he was not cross-examined during Conrad Murray's trial. "We missed something," said Detective Orlando Martinez, a retired LAPD investigator who worked the Jackson case in 2009. "This wasn't just bad medicine. This may have been a setup. The security footage, the missing hours, the unexplained phone calls. We were so focused on Murray that we didn't look at the bigger picture. Former Jackson family associates began speaking out. One bodyguard who worked for Michael in the early 2000s claimed that Michael had become increasingly worried about industry people trying to control him. He would say things like, "They're always watching and they want to own my soul," the bodyguard recalled. "I thought he was being paranoid because of all the stress, but now I'm not so sure." Even more disturbing were the revelations from Michael's domestic staff. A former housekeeper at the Holmby Hills mansion where Michael died came forward, claiming she had been pressured by official-looking people not to discuss what she saw in the days before Michael's death. "They told me it would be better for everyone if I kept quiet," she said. "They made it clear that my immigration status could become a problem if I talked." Every major news station ran panels, with experts dissecting every word of Kanye's testimony. CNN's Anderson Cooper dedicated an entire show to the allegations, bringing in former FBI profilers, entertainment lawyers, and music industry insiders. "If even half of what Kanye West claims is true," Cooper said, "we're looking at a conspiracy that goes to the very heart of the entertainment industry." Former federal prosecutor Nancy Grace was more direct. "This isn't just about Diddy or Michael Jackson anymore. This is about a systematic pattern of control and elimination that may have claimed multiple victims over decades. The FBI needs to reopen every one of these cases." Music industry insiders began sharing their own stories anonymously. One former A&R executive told Rolling Stone, "Everyone in the industry knows about the handlers, about the control mechanisms. We just don't talk about it because we want to keep working. But artists die suspicious deaths all the time, and we just accept it as part of the business." Some dismissed Kanye's claims as conspiratorial, but others replayed his testimony line by line, pausing on the moment he said, "They're still watching us." Social media exploded with Yacher Justice for MJ and Chacha Kanye Told the Truth hashtags. Thousands of fans began sharing their own theories and evidence they claimed supported Kanye's allegations. The ski impact extended beyond social media. Several major artists, including Justin Bieber, The Weeknd, and Rihanna, suddenly canceled public appearances and increased their security. Industry sources claimed that multiple A-list celebrities had gone into hiding, afraid that Kanye's testimony might make them targets. Public opinion shifted rapidly and dramatically. Kanye wasn't trending for a controversial statement or a new album. He was trending because he might have finally blown the lid off something people feared was true all along. Late-night talk show hosts, who usually mocked Kanye's statements, found themselves taking his testimony seriously. Stephen Colbert devoted his entire monologue to the allegations, saying, "I've spent years making fun of conspiracy theories, but this doesn't feel like a conspiracy anymore. This feels like an exposé." As the court recessed after Kanye's testimony, the buzz inside the courthouse was electric. Security was increased, reporters scrambled to confirm the Jackson family's rumored subpoenas, and the judge reportedly called an emergency meeting with both legal teams to address the gravity of the accusations. Diddy's defense team tried to downplay Kanye's words, calling them irrelevant and unverified personal delusions, but the public wasn't buying it. Social media exploded with clips of Kanye saying, "They want to call me crazy, but I'm just the only one telling the truth." Behind the scenes, prosecutors reportedly began re-evaluating witness lists. Fahim Muhammad, long quiet and rarely seen, was now a name being circulated with urgency. Rumors swirled that federal investigators were revisiting closed Jackson files, especially in light of the resurfaced voicemail and new testimonies. But the most heartbreaking development came from Michael's children. One insider claimed that Paris Jackson had privately told friends she believed her father's death wasn't an accident. Prince Jackson reportedly wrote a now-deleted tweet that read, "My father feared the industry, and now I understand why." The trial wasn't just about Diddy anymore. It had become a referendum on the music industry itself, its cover-ups, its ghosts, and its hunger for control. Kanye West, once dismissed as an unstable figure, had placed himself squarely in the center of history. In the days following his testimony, the ripple effects continued to spread. The Justice Department announced it was opening a preliminary investigation into systemic issues within the entertainment industry. The FBI confirmed that agents had begun reviewing cold cases involving the deaths of prominent musicians over the past 2 decades, Congress took notice as well. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez called for hearings on monopolistic practices and potential criminal enterprises within the music industry. Senator Elizabeth Warren demanded a full investigation into the financial beneficiaries of deceased artists' estates. International attention focused on the case as well. Scotland Yard announced it was reviewing the death of Amy Winehouse in light of Kanye's testimony about industry patterns. French authorities began looking into the circumstances surrounding the deaths of several American artists who had died while touring in Europe. The music industry itself went into crisis mode. Stock prices for major labels plummeted as investors worried about potential legal liabilities. Several executives at Sony, Universal, and Warner took sudden leaves of absence. Industry conferences were canceled, and multiple artists postponed album releases. But perhaps the most significant impact was on the artists themselves. A group of prominent musicians, including Kendrick Lamar, Drake, Taylor Swift, and Beyoncé, signed an open letter calling for complete transparency in artist contracts and industry practices. The letter stated, "If what Kanye West alleges is true, then we have all been complicit in a system that may have cost artists their lives." The Jackson family's response continued to evolve. Michael's mother, Catherine Jackson, released a statement through her attorney. "For 14 years, we have lived with questions about my son's death. We have always believed there was more to the story than what was presented in court. We are grateful to Kanye for having the courage to speak truth, and we are prepared to cooperate fully with any investigation." Paris Jackson, Michael's daughter, broke her social media silence with a powerful post. "My father spent his life fighting for truth and justice. He fought against racism, against exploitation, against the forces that tried to control him. If he was murdered for refusing to be silent, then his death becomes even more meaningful. We will not let his voice be silenced in death." The final question lingering in the air was profound. Would this testimony change anything? Because if Kanye was right, and Diddy played even a part in orchestrating the downfall of the greatest entertainer who ever lived, then this wasn't just a trial. It was a reckoning that could reshape an entire industry. Legal experts predicted that the case would drag on for years, with appeals, countersuits, and federal investigations creating a complex web of legal proceedings. But they also acknowledged that regardless of the legal outcomes, Kanye's testimony had already changed everything. "The music industry operates on secrets," said entertainment lawyer Johnny Cochran Jr.'s former partner. "When those secrets are exposed in open court, under oath, with the whole world watching, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. Win or lose, this trial has already rewritten the rules." The courtroom had witnessed something unprecedented. Whether it was truth or fiction, justice or chaos, one thing was certain: the music industry would never look the same again. The king of pop's legacy had found a new voice, and that voice belonged to Kanye West. As the proceedings continued into the following weeks, with more witnesses coming forward and more evidence being presented, the world watched and waited, wondering if this explosive testimony would finally provide the answers that had eluded investigators for over a decade. The truth, whatever it might be, was now center stage in the most watched trial of the century. Some called it the end of an era, the end of an industry built on exploitation and control. Others called it the beginning of a new chapter, one where artists could speak freely without fear of retaliation. But everyone agreed on one thing: nothing would ever be the same. Kanye West had done what many thought impossible. He had made the world listen, really listen, to what he had been trying to say all along. Whether history would vindicate him or condemn him remained to be seen. But his words, spoken under oath in a federal courtroom, would echo through the halls of the music industry for generations to come. The king of pop was gone, but his story, and the fight for truth and justice that defined his life, lived on through the courage of those willing to speak out against the machine that tried to destroy them both.